Malcolm or Martin? Who had the better philosophy? Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. Happy African History Month. Today is the end of Black History Month, but it's not the end of Black History, and it's not the end of the lessons we're going to take from Black History, but we'll get to that in a little bit. First of all, I want to talk about Malcolm and Martin. I spoke about them earlier in the month, and these are two figures who loom larger than life in for a couple of reasons. One, they both were alive at the time when the mediums were changing and becoming more popular. Certain mediums, so television, video, film, that really helped to expand their influence, because now we don't just have to hear or read transcripts of their speeches. We are able to actually see recording video of them speaking, in interviews, directly to audiences, directly to it's in the midst of movements, in the midst of trying to get things accomplished, and actually, on the ground, making moves and influencing the course of history. But the question is, and this is a frequent exercise I like to engage in looking at Malcolm and Martin and their respective philosophies. And so often I would take a look at it in terms of violence versus nonviolence, and not just initiating violence, but self-defense versus nonviolence. And we can touch on that, because the simple fact is, I still see it today. Like, I will see people make the argument that, in fact, I saw it not too long ago on Facebook. Somebody will say something, and sometimes it's very stupidly put, like, oh, Malcolm X was just a hater. Like, why would you want to follow him? Martin Luther King was a true American, a hero. He was somebody to look up to and follow. And so one individual made this comment, like, I think over the course of the last week, and he was a white guy. And so I posed the question to him. I said, okay, if somebody is murdering white people because they're white, targeting white people, pulling white people out of their homes, brutalizing them, torturing them, raping them, murdering them, if somebody is brutalizing and committing all types of atrocities against white people, do you still believe Martin Luther King is a great role model? Are you going to try to, reason with this person, understand their humanity, try to get them to empathize with you? Or is that what you're going to do? This person never answered the question, because clearly they saw how stupid the statements they were making were. These were the realities facing Black Americans, and the expectation for Black people to turn the other cheek is asinine, because that expectation doesn't exist for anybody else, or even for yourselves. So the people that say that, I mean, from Tommy Lauren saying it, when she was commenting on Beyonce's Super Bowl halftime show, and it's like, wait, aren't you the same one that's always posing with guns? Aren't you the same one that criticized Barack Obama for not blowing up enough people in his Middle East strikes? But now you're really trying to tell this fantasy that you think Martin Luther King Jr.'s philosophy was a better philosophy, and one that you personally would adhere to? Of course not. So the thing I just take a look at is, and it's like and just based on that alone, you don't need to go too far. You don't need to dig too deep to figure it out that, wait a minute, like, who else is actually going to accept that philosophy as a way of effectuating change? And there's a reason why I feel that it actually puts us at greater risk, because sometimes you're dealing with people who become emboldened by an action. See, if you think you're dealing with somebody who's a rational person and who's well-meaning, then maybe nonviolence would be useful. But if you're dealing with just evil people intent on inflicting harm, which is what black people have been facing in this country and abroad for centuries, then no, that just makes them, they're like, okay, this is easy. Like, you'll just lay down and let me kill you? Cool. And so that is why, just in looking at the philosophy of nonviolence, nonviolent resistance, nonviolent protest versus self-defense, I just do not agree with Martin's philosophy. And I don't think it is effective, specifically on where we are today, specifically in relation to where we are today. But of course, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's other factors to take into consideration. And so I don't want to advocate for just going out and killing people. No. But if somebody is trying to kill you, it makes sense for you to defend yourself. That is the wise thing to do. Somebody's trying to kill you and your family. Like, no, yes, you defend them. You defend them strenuously. Like, yes, you fight back. You fight to protect your family. Point, like, that shouldn't even need to be a question. But it seems in the United States, and maybe not just in the United States, it actually, in a system where, the Black Holocaust, the Mafia was being, just in the Black Holocaust was being inflicted upon black people, it made it necessary for that statement these kind of statements to be made, because people really wanted, the people who were inflicting this harm wanted black people to just lay down and take it. And so no, that makes no sense. That's asinine. Self-defense is absolutely necessary, and not just and more so when you're dealing with for others, as opposed to just dealing with fighting for yourself as well, but definitely when fighting for others, your family, your loved ones. Yeah, like we're going all out. There's not We're not going to encourage violent, psychopathic, sociopathic, murderous, homicidal individuals to think that they can just act with impunity and slaughter black people. No. In fact, if you take a look at what's happening now, that's a problem. Where people, like, there's acts of violence being committed against black people because they're black, and it's like, we're good. We have nothing to worry about. That's what the perpetrators. That's how they're carrying themselves. So being able and willing to defend ourselves and defend our lives, defend our property, it's absolutely necessary. And yeah, that's an interesting thing, property, because we talked about Black Wall Street, and there were so many other Black Wall Streets. But like, when violence is used to stop black people from advancing, from building vibrant, thriving, financially and economically vibrant communities, okay, yeah, weapons and the ability to protect what's yours is going to be necessary because there are people who don't want to see us have them. But it goes beyond just the nonviolent versus self-defense messages from Malcolm and Martin. And it sounds like I'm really coming harsh on Martin. I just think it's important for us to acknowledge his courage, acknowledge his bravery, acknowledge his intelligence. Um, but I did talk about, you know, one of the things I focused on in discussing Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was the doctor, the fact that he was well educated. But now there's a way to look at education, and there's a way to recognize what education actually was. Education in this system isn't just the facts. There's a spin on the facts. There's a portion of the education which is actually indoctrination. And achieving success as a part of and within this society as it currently exists definitely, I think, had a shaped Dr. Martin Luther King's priorities and his outlook. So he wanted to preserve the black experience within this system because he was successful at it. He had an affinity for it because he was able to achieve things within it. Malcolm, remember, what was Malcolm's experience with the educational system? The educational system tried to shut Malcolm down, tried to keep him down, keep him in his place, tried to rob him of the intellect that he knew he possessed. They tried to kill his dreams. Malcolm educated himself. That also, I think, was key in shaping and not allowing his worldview to be limited. He was able to see a world for a world of success, a world of a future for black people that didn't have to include this current system or the current system he was in. It didn't have to. He wasn't overly attached to the system. But even today, we have to look around and see so many supposedly black leaders who are very attached to the system. They don't want to leave it behind. They don't want to exist without it. But we've got to be able to realize the reality. And so when you take a look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., what was his goal for black people? What was the future he envisioned for black people? A future based on integration. And I have no doubt that there were people who got close to him and steered his vision into a certain area. But that's why it's key to have a clear idea of what is needed, a clear path, so that outsiders can't co-opt and steer our messages, our goals, our movements into unproductive territory. So, Dr. Martin Luther King valued integration. Martin wanted something different. He was like, listen, if we got to get away from these people, we get away from these people. Like these people clearly do not have our best interests at heart. And we've got to be able to realize, okay, y'all can do your thing and we do our thing. He made a statement about allowing your enemy to educate your children. Why in the hell, in a system that is systematically racist, which has unleashed all types of hell on black men, women, and children for centuries, why in the hell are we providing the custody and control of our children to the people who run this racist system, an anti-black system? What sense does it make to give custody and control of your children to these people for 13 years or more? Integration is not a worthwhile goal. Being accepted, getting somebody else to accept you who either has outright hatred for you, contempt for you, or just benign neglect. Love me. Like, no, that's absurd. If somebody chooses to appreciate you and love you for who you are, awesome. But begging for it, marching for it, sitting in for it, no. Integration was never a worthwhile goal. Independence is what we should have been fighting for. Malcolm's ideas were much more geared towards independence as opposed to integration. Malcolm criticized a philosophy of fighting for integration. Like, what is that? He said, what are you fighting for? This makes no sense. You're fighting to weaken your self-respect, your sense of dignity, your sense of self, because you're trying to be accepted by somebody else. No. So, yes. It's not just about the message of nonviolence versus violence. It's a matter of integration versus independence. And in the integration does not make more sense than independence. So what am I saying? Am I saying that we need to segregate from white people? Leave white people alone. Stop. Don't talk to white people. Leave them alone. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we take a look at the entire month, the purpose of this month is to learn things. And especially where we are in 2021, having just seen some of the, I think it's got to be the greatest civil unrest in my lifetime, especially concerning racial issues. Because listen, Rodney King riots did not last the entire summer, and they weren't all over the country. Like these were all over the country for months. And it wasn't just about racial issues. It was the racial issues, the underlying racial issues, racial tensions, and I can't even say racial tension, because it wasn't like it was between whites and blacks. It was between like the authorities and everyone else, and especially as it related to black people. The mistreatment at the hands of the authorities, at the hands of this government. But how do we solve that? How do we fight that? We need an agenda. We need a black agenda. We cannot allow the Democratic Party to tell us what our agenda is. We cannot allow the Democratic Party to choose to tell us who our leaders are. When the Republican Party does that, when they put a Candace Owens in front of us, do we say, yeah, yeah, no? You can easily see a Candace Owens, a Brandon Tatum, a Larry Elder for the clowns and buffoons that they are. Why can't we see these others as this? The Congressional Black Caucus? You mean the same Congressional Black Caucus that signed on the dotted line, signed our young boys away with the, the anti-drug abuse acts of the 80s, the 100-to-1 crack law, the 94 crime bill, the VCC-LEA, yeah. That same CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, that in order to save themselves, in order to protect their careers, they sold thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of our youth down the river. Just sold us out, threw us away, left us at the mercy of the state. So yes, we need a black agenda so that we don't have the Democrats, the Republicans, or any other party coming with their own agenda trying to say, hell yes, this is going to benefit you. We need a black agenda. And what is that black agenda going to be about? It's not going to be about integration. We need to establish what it's going to be about and not allow somebody to say, yeah, what you really want is you want white farmers to get tax cuts. Yeah, that's what you want. That'll show them, and have somebody do some convoluted explanation on how their agenda is actually really beneficial for us and works for us first and foremost. No, we need a black agenda that's focused on independence. Remember Kwame Nkrumah? What was he fighting for? What did he achieve? Ghana achieved independence. Then what did each of the African states fight for and achieve? Independence. That's why Black history is so important, because we have to learn these lessons. What we got wrong and how we can fix it right now. Haiti, what did they fight for? Independence. So why, throughout the entire diaspora, was everybody else fighting for independence and we were fighting for integration? Everybody else was fighting to be left alone, and we were fighting to be accepted. Everybody else was fighting for liberty. We were fighting to be loved. No. Those are the lessons we need to learn. And right now, make changes. So am I saying, oh yeah, go write an agenda? Well, if you can, go ahead. If you can't, I've been busy. I've been working. I've been participating in these discussions and these meetings for the first Black History Month program we had was in 2004. And then since then, on at least an annual basis. In fact, and sometimes it lasted throughout longer than just the month. But me and conscious brothers have been coming together, meeting of minds, and taking a critical look at history and an objective, realistic look at the present to understand what we need. And even more than that, we've been taking looks at ourselves to see what we need to be doing. It's hard work, but it has to be done. And it's why I have started developing a Black agenda. Been working on it for a while. Like I said, this is not the process of a couple of days. This is years in the making. And I want to share some of the points with you. I will be unveiling more of it very soon. But one of the things I want to tell you, independence. That's the theme. So there are other people right now who are talking about black agendas. But what is the theme? I love that Ice Cube came out with the Contract for Black America. I think there's some good stuff in there. I think there's some ideas. I'm like, okay, that's something we didn't think of. That's something we weren't focused on. And we have to be willing to accept that, because this is going to be a collaborative effort amongst the black community. But we need to focus. We need to have a theme. We need to have a direction. We need to have a goal. So independence is going to be key. It can't be about becoming part of somebody else's thing. It's about building our own thing. And that means economically. That means politically. That means educationally. It means culturally, community-wise, spiritually. Like, we need to get it together. It's a lot of work to do. And one of the things that it's going to address, and I want to make this point out before I unveil the actual document, is reparations. Because right now, there are people that are working hard to try to derail any idea, and not derail the idea of reparations, trying to co-opt it and steer it into something that'll be meaningless and symbolic. It'll be useless and just symbolic, and if we sit back and allow the people that are working on this to continue working on this and to tell us what their idea of reparations are, then we will have a reparations package that looks like getting rid of mascots, stereotypical mascots. Yes, we're going to outlaw lawn jockeys. They'll tell us that part of the reparations package is putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Now, I told you, I think it's a great thing to see her on the $20 bill. I think she needs to be honored. That's not reparations. Stop it. That's why we need to take control. That's why one of the first things to be discussed with as regards to reparations is who doesn't get to choose what it is. The United States Congress does not get to choose. These discussions are not going to be taking place in Capitol Hill. No. Not the Senate, not the House of Representatives, not the Congressional Black Caucus that has sold us out at every chance they fucking have gotten. No, they don't get to choose. They're not working for us. They're working for them. They can keep working for them while we work for ourselves. While we build up something that's for us, that's going to improve the state and the future of the black community. And absolutely, one of the first thing that needs to be taking place with reparations is taxation must end. You do not get to steal money out of our paychecks every week while you owe us. You've stolen years of labor, hundreds of years of labor from us, and you still and you continue to steal from us? No, that is unacceptable. Now, somebody wants to talk about black agenda? Ask which one of these CBC members is willing to stand on that. They're not, because they don't work for us. And their bosses do not want to entertain that idea at all. That's why Barack Obama now suddenly endorses reparations. But he won't endorse that because they're trying to co-opt it. So first things first, we tell them that's it. The descendants of slaves, the black people in this country, tax-free. That's it. Like we're telling you where it begins. We will discuss where reparations ends, but we're telling you where it begins. You don't get to keep stealing from us. That ends now. So there's a lot of things in this black agenda that must be addressed, and that I will be unveiling very shortly. But like I said, these are all lessons that we needed to learn, and that's why Black History Month is so important. That's why Black history is so important. It extends beyond the month, and we need to be learning these things. We need to be enacting the lessons we learn. Action. Because the history is just keep providing the knowledge, the context, the basis for us to move forward cohesively and constructively. It has been a wonderful opportunity to make these videos throughout the month of Black History, throughout the month of February, in honor of Black History Month, in honor of African History Month. And I look forward to continuing to do the work alongside all of you out there in actually building upon the sacrifices of so many that have come before us, that have given their lives, whether they got everything right or not. The fact that they fought, the fact that they showed up, the fact that they were devoted to helping and trying to improve the state of black people, trying to find justice on behalf of black people. These are sacrifices, these are contributions that we have to recognize, celebrate, and continue, because we still have work to do. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for spending Black History, the month of February with me, and watching these videos. And I look forward to what we have in store. Happy African History Month, and I'll see you soon.